Jason, is there more on your plate this year? Have you taken on some more responsibilities in kind of that defensive pass game coordinator mold that we saw Joe last year?
No, Joe was the pass game coordinator. I'm the secondary coach. I'm the DB coach. So I'm just trying to own that position. I am the lead guy in the room now, so that is a little bit of a difference. But I had a lot on my plate last year. You know, just being the lead guy now, just having the final decision is really the only change.
So, I'm sorry, Jason. So, yeah, for a while here, though, we had a cornerbacks coach, we had a safeties coach. So how are things different structurally in terms of, like, you're coaching all of the DBs now, so what does that allow you to do? I mean, I'm sure you guys communicated and stuff, but what does that change there do?
I think the biggest thing is it allows for greater continuity on the back end, you know, for the corners and safeties to be on the same page. And that's the biggest thing, you know, because everybody knows what the strengths and the weaknesses of every coverage is.
Jason, I'm sure you guys all worked together at times, but was the safety meeting room and the cornerback meeting room, were those separate in the past?
Yes, they were. They were earlier, yes. But that's why I say now we're at a point where we just know and realize that the best way to do it, or particularly with this staff and this defense, is to be together and to be together as much as we can.
So did you knock down a wall, or is there a room empty?
Rooms are big enough. The one thing about this place though, is it's big enough to hold, and wherever we want to put guys, we have enough room.
As you prepare for a new season, how do you decide how much trust you want to put in a guy whose talent is really strong, like Kevin King, but whose body just maybe hasn't allowed him to be as available as you would like? How do you decide how much you want to build around a guy like that, not knowing what his future may hold?
I'm always going to trust in the talent. And the one thing about Kevin, he has a tremendous amount of talent. And I'm always going to trust in that first and trust what I see with my eyes.
So, Jason, when you look at two new safeties, Adrian and Darnell, why, you know, as a combination, do you think maybe they could be successful and complement each other?
Well, particularly skill sets, where they'll complement each other. But the deal is, though, they're both intelligent football players. That's the main thing. You just don't have a guy that have to carry another guy. You know, individually, they both can consume the whole defense and digest it and understand and have the call command to be able to command the whole back end. So they both can do that. So in that way, they can be interchangeable.
So, you know, they're both new to the defense. Obviously, one comes from the league and one comes from college. But, you know, that's such an important position for communication and all that. You don't have any reservations if those were the two guys that they could, you know, handle that communication?
No, not at all. Not at all. Both of those guys are professionals. You know what I mean? And I say that, and I know it's quickly to say that about Darnell, but the deal is, though, the way he approaches it, the way he approaches the game, I'm really impressed with. He has a long way to go. He is not ready at this point. And the best thing is he realizes that. And he has a cast around him that have put their arms around him as well and willing to help him.
Jason, just to clarify, you said meet together with safeties and corners as much as you can. Are there still separate meetings that you have with just safeties and just corners, or is everything now in the same meeting room?
For the most part, we meet together. For the most part, we meet together. You know, we'll have breakout meetings, of course, with linebackers. The biggest thing, and I talk about particularly in this defense that Mike Pettin wants us to do, is have continuity on all three levels of the defense.
So what did you see with Adrian last year, or even just throughout his career? I mean, here's a guy who hasn't had a lot of splash plays, so to speak, but, you know, what did you see on a play-to-play basis with him?
You know, when you say splash plays, to me, from a secondary coach, those splash plays are when he gets guys down. You know, that's the thing. I mean, he gets guys down easily in the open field, you know, and in traffic. And to me, when you can get guys down and allow the defense to play another snap, those are splash plays, particularly when you get dynamic guys down, and he has the ability to do that. Now, interceptions and things like that, they haven't come, but we all know interceptions can come in bunches. So splash plays, he makes really good plays as a safety, and his consistency is really what attracted me to him.
Jason, with Tyson, do you see him as a safety or as a corner? I know in Seattle they kind of liked him as both. You see him that way, and I guess what do you like about him in the little bit that you have seen?
I tell you what, he goes about his business. That's the one thing that I like about him. He is here definitely to win a job. You can tell that there's a level of maturity that he has, so he's not bright-eyed coming in here. He's coming in here to win a job. So that's what I like. In terms of what position, I don't like to box guys in. If a guy shows me that he can show some versatility, which always helps you make the ball club, I'll allow him to do that.
How do you feel about it when somebody does the opposite of coming in and trying to win a job and stays home during OTAs?
Does the opposite?
Yeah, chooses to stay home and not come and compete.
Well, the one thing that I say about OTAs is this is voluntary, so you have the opportunity to do that. You know what I mean? I can't look down on anybody who decides to not come to something that's voluntary.
Do you wish your players would be here?
You know what? The thing is, I just take care of the guys that's here. When the guy enters into this place right here, when they come in the Lambeau, I'm going to give them all I have.
Jason, we don't know what Josh is going to do from here. I mean, you're going to have a mandatory minicamp in a couple of weeks. I would guess he'd probably show up so he wouldn't get fined. So I'm curious, what do you see in him, just as a player, because he's still on the roster? What do you see in him, and what are your expectations for him if and when he does come, in terms of what he can give you guys? Because he does, I mean, he's played 1,200 snaps in the league in his first 2 years. What have you seen in those snaps, and what do you want to see going forward?
I mean, he's still a big, fast, physical safety, that we drafted, and we drafted early. He's shown some versatility. He's played the dime, so he's played down in the box. He's played deep. When he comes in, the only thing we can do is just continue to develop his skill set.
Jason, with Tremont, we've talked before about his leadership and everything like that. I'm curious from your perspective, what do you sense or what do you see that motivates him right now? I mean, he's 36 years old. He doesn't have to keep doing this, but he's still playing obviously at a pretty high level. What do you see as his motivation at this point in his career?
He still loves what he's doing. You know what I mean? That's the thing about him. This guy still loves football. That's the deal. Guys, a guy that's played that long, a guy that's won a Super Bowl, a guy that has money. What keeps him going is he loves football. He loves to be around football. He loves to be around the guys. He loves to compete. And as long as you love to compete, we want him in this building.
It's a pretty good rookie year for Jair. We saw Josh a little less, but something to build on. What do you want to see from each of those guys individually in this second year jump here this offseason?
Well, the one thing that's my job is to make sure with some of the success that both of them had, that they don't get complacent, that they know in this league that you either get better or you get worse. So I'll continue to challenge them. I'll continue to challenge both of the guys to get better, because there are people behind them that are trying to take their spot. Because the one thing that we talk about on defense is being competitive, right? So we're always competing. We're competing against the opponent, and we're competing against ourselves.
Jason, Josh was a guy in college who was around the ball a lot. Didn't necessarily see that as much last year. Is that the next step for him, to try to make some more plays like that?
Yeah, and that's why we brought him in. The thing about Josh is we realize that he is a ball hawk. One season where he didn't get a bunch of interceptions doesn't take that away from him. He still has that skill set. The deal is it doesn't always happen for you, particularly for a DB in your first year. So nobody's down on him or anything like that. We still have faith in what he can do, and he shows it all the time on the practice field. Now it's time to make sure and take it from the practice field and apply it in games.
What type of opportunity do you think Raven has this year if he can stay healthy and build on what he did last season before he got hurt?
Good question. He has the same one that everybody else has. And that's the thing, just to be honest with you. I can't sit up here and say that one guy has more of a chance than anybody else, particularly if what I'm preaching is competitiveness, in the room, and people are competing for jobs. So he has the same one that everybody else has, and I'll make sure those reps show that.
Back to Josh Jackson, you were talking earlier about flexibility. Is Josh still 100% a corner/nickel, or is he in the safety mix, do you think? Or what do you think?
Everybody we have are DBs. I classify everybody in the room as DBs, because the one thing about Coach Pettin, as you see, we're multiple. You can align anywhere. Anybody can align anywhere. I mean, you saw guys like Tremont lining deep. You saw him aligning at the nickel. You saw him blitzing. You saw Jair doing all the same things. So everybody learns every position in this defense.
Josh Jackson's ball hawk ability, but Jair had one interception last year. I think Kevin King's had one in 2 years. Is that an area of emphasis, taking the ball away more from that position group?
Yeah, taking the ball away is definitely an emphasis of ours. We realize to win games, you have to create turnovers. To be a good defense, you have to eliminate big plays and create turnovers. The more we can get the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands, the better team we'll be.